Chapter 1. The estate was best understood at 5 in the morning. Mack had learned this about old houses years ago, that they told the truth before the light got too bright, the day's noise started, and before there was anything to perform for. In the gray pre-dawn quiet, a building settled into itself, and if you knew how to listen, it would tell you everything that was wrong with it. The Cross estate had plenty to say, at least to him. He stood in what had been the East Wing receiving room, and let his eyes work systematically across the ceiling plaster. Noticing the water-staining ghost maps of old damage repaired badly twice over, he jotted down notes. In the northeast corner, there was a crack running from the crown molding toward the window frame that was suspicious. There was a need for him to investigate before anyone from his crew got within 15 feet of that wall. He'd marked it on his plans last night in red. The plans were already dense with red marks. He drank his coffee. Black, from the thermos he'd filled at the motel's lobby machine earlier, because the alternative was a drive into town and wait. Mack couldn't bear to wait when there was work to look at. Foundations worse than the survey said. Pete was behind him an hour later, flashlight tracing the base of the east wall. For 8 years at Madden Build, Pete followed Mack's guiding principles: arrive early, give an honest assessment, and speak only when you have something important to say. I know. Mack moved to the window and looked out at the grounds. It was still dark, the ocean beyond a presence more than a sight, heard rather than seen. I called the structural engineer last night. She's coming on Thursday. Thursday's tight. Yep. I know that too, but we have no choice. Pete made a grunt that was approximately, "This is going to be a lot," compressed into a single syllable. Mack respected him for the efficiency. He turned back to the room and moved along the east wall, pressing his palm flat against the plaster in several places. Feeling for flex, give, and for the specific wrongness that came from a foundation doing unusual things. The Cross estate was a 1920s coastal Maine property, perched on a rise above the water with the confidence of money that didn't need to prove itself. 3 stories of cedar shingles and local granite, a slate roof that had held because it was the one part of this building that had been built without shortcuts. There were 2 acres of garden that had once been formal and were now gloriously and aggressively wild. The whole thing had been declining slowly for 30 years under a succession of ownership arrangements that had prioritized it as an asset rather than a place. Malona Cross had bought it 18 months ago to fix it. She had the taste, the money, and from what Mack could tell, the absolute refusal to accept half measures, and he respected that. He loved building things for people who wanted something excellent. He'd also built things for people who wanted something cheap that looked excellent. The first kind was the only kind worth getting out of bed for. He'd been on site 3 days already, getting the measure of the job. His crew, Pete, Donovan, Ramos, and the 2 brothers whose last name Mack had learned to spell correctly only in the past week, would arrive at 7. He liked these hours before their arrival. It was his thinking time. His listening to the building time. He climbed to the 2nd floor and walked down the corridor, testing floorboards. Most were sound. 2 sections near the bathroom needed replacing. He made a note. Then he moved on to the main staircase, ran a hand down the banister, found the wobble in the 4th post, and marked that too before moving on. By the time the light had gone from gray to pale gold of a Maine morning, he had walked every room of the main house, updated his plans twice.